Good afternoon, Saitlanders. How are you? I've got a new Belgian Malinois puppy. Hey! And I have to be gentle with her. I've given her a couple of clips and I've shouted at her once or twice, but I have to be wary of bullying her. And she is very energetic, as Belgian Malinois are renowned to be. So I have to be quite indulgent. And I'm trying not to socialize her. I don't want her to become accustomed to other people and going wherever it is that it pleases her to go. Therefore, I have to keep her around me a lot. And right now she's in my office and I'll try to keep her under control. But please be a little bit patient with me if there's an annoying bark in the background, because she is irrepressible. SASSA. As you know, in the past, I personally, not as a matter of Saitlanders policy, but I personally have emphasized my perception that one of the greatest threats to South Africa's stability, is SASSA. I've always felt that SASSA, Eskom, you'll remember the videos that I made in 2018, ranting and raving like a madman in an attempt to get people to perceive that the problem is far worse than the mainstream media and Eskom were admitting. And now, of course, that has been borne out. Those two things, and then a combination of food prices and food shortages, fuel price and fuel shortage, rand exchange rate. Those kind of three major factors with a couple of sub-factors in the one have been what I perceived to pose the greatest threat to South Africa. Okay. Of course, we have to include some other things that are emerging, such as unemployment. It's reasonable to believe that the past year's dramas with Eskom will have a greater knock-on effect than we might have anticipated in the formal employment environment. Certainly there are, I know, we only have a handful of businesses in this town. And even in this tiny little town, this village, there are businesses that are being closed and or being sold purely because of the difficulty in trading without electricity and the expense of putting up solar. Now, take that and expand it to the national level. It's a big thing, very big thing. Whereas it wasn't something that I'd necessarily identified previously. It wasn't one of my obsessions. I didn't foresee, I knew that our employment was terrible, but I didn't have notions that in 1 or 2 years of electricity crises, we may lose, I don't know, time will tell, another 5%. We may gain another 5% unemployment and lose 5% of the employed people. Perhaps I'm exaggerating. Time will tell. So, there was an article in Marula Media yesterday. I had it here in front of me. I've managed to almost to mislay it, not lose, but mislay. About SASSA going on strike at 3 offices in Mpumalanga, Gauteng, and the Northern Cape, due to systemic issues that have not been addressed. This worsens service delivery. Wait. This worsens service delivery, blah, 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 blah. Beneficiaries already have to constantly worry about whether they will get paid on time. You will remember we reported in early December that in late November of last year, there was a hiccup, not a crisis, but it was a serious hiccup in making the SASSA payments. And it turned out later, it was alleged later by one media outlet that what had happened was there was a shortage of money in the SASSA coffins. And they'd been ringing the alarm bell and nobody had paid attention to them until such time as they couldn't make the payments, or all of the payments, I should say. And then the government scurried to find more cash for SASSA. Okay. It goes on to say that it is almost like, well, it is a correction to the article. Now the staff at SASSA's office in Shoshanguve are also on strike. So it talks about the first three and then it throws in this other one. The real point of this video is to mention something that nobody is talking about. Namely, hey guys, we're neck deep in it. Namely that it was announced in February, and we had this on the Saitlanders WhatsApp groups, Saitlanders leaders groups, that from the 1st of March, SASSA will be load shedding or shedding recipients. Now, to this moment, I have a fair idea of who those recipients are. Therefore, in theory, they should have a fair idea. I mean, if you're in that game, if you're in the game of receiving 1,000 Rand at the end of the month, on which you utterly depend for your survival, presumably, even if you don't read and write and whatever, you would have picked up through the grapevine that as of the 1st of March, you're going to be off the system. So everybody should know. But they're not really talking about it. That is to say, the department and the government and the ANC and the mainstream media and the observers and the non-governmental organizations and the bleeding hearts and the social justice warriors. The reality is that on top of these payment problems and staff on strike, which are being reported, because it's a big thing, SASSA. On top of that is coming the fact that at the end of March, those people who were shed on the 1st, so who are not eligible for those 31 days, for that period, are going to, some of them, be rudely awakened by the fact that the government is no longer supporting them. And you might say, well, that's a jolly good thing. I put it to you that it's a jolly bad thing. Because once you create that expectation, you can't uncreate it. And once you create that dependency, to uncreate the dependency is a matter of years. It's a matter of economic growth. It's a matter of demand in the marketplace for employees, demand in the employment market. It's a matter of civil projects to kickstart the economy. It's not simply a matter of saying, well, buddy, we don't want you to be dependent upon this heroin, these cigarettes, this drug, such as they have such big crises in the USA with fentanyl and other opioids. It's a matter of a very, very painful, traumatic, and difficult. Not only is it painful and traumatic, it's difficult to get it right. To come off those drugs, to come off, to become not dependent upon these life-saving monies. This will lead, to what extent we don't know yet, but to some extent for certain, greater instability in this country. You may be one of those people who are called accelerationists in the USA. They are those right-wingers who say, I wish that a civil war would begin tomorrow because I can no longer bear the fact that my children are having LGBTQ compulsorily rammed down their throats at school, and in every Disney movie insidiously inflected in the movie that they're being brainwashed, that the country is falling apart, that Joe Biden is insane, to put it mildly, that we have a $31 trillion debt that is simply unpayable, that our debt ceiling, the the permission that the Congress gives for the US government to go into greater debt has to be increased for no other reason than the payment of the interest. So they're not increasing their debt ceiling in the USA, as you might hear on the radio or the television from time to time, in order to give more money to people or to buy more weapons or to get Joe Biden a new jumbo jet. They're increasing the debt ceiling at present, if you listen to the real experts, purely for the sake of the interest burden on the previously incurred debts. So they are incurring debt to pay debt. The experts will tell you that in many areas and what have you, actual spending in the USA has not increased relative to tax revenue. What has increased is the interest repayments coming due. Interest on top of interest, compound interest. That if you look carefully at the figures, the thing that makes the real difference is that they don't have enough money to pay the interest. And such things are making people the world over, like we're going crazy witnessing this ESCOM story, making people go mad. And some right-wingers say, well, this is out of control. I can't bear it anymore. Our country is being run by the deep state, by the liberals, by the Illuminati, by the occupying government, what they call the occupational government. A government by the enemies of America, people that have slipped in. You may be like one of them, and you might say, well, it's jolly good. Let the action begin. Let the country go mad. Let's settle this new South Africa Rainbow Nation matter. Let's go to our safe area. Let's sit there comfortably and watch the rest of the country tear itself to pieces. Afterwards, we can rebuild again. But many people are going to feel frightening pain between now and then. Therefore, I say to you, in my opinion, personal opinion, this is not a good thing. It will not be a good thing if SASSA continues to deteriorate. We had drama in November, strikes now in March, and by April, we'll have people being shed. What if by May or June or July, they've shed more, so there's like a third or fourth installment in this saga, and we have nationwide riots, plundering, marauding, pillaging, in suburban areas. So, there are my thoughts, guys. Let's see what happens, but I believe that this SASSA thing, and only time will tell. Only time will tell. Like Mr. Miller and I have a bit of a, not a bet, not a formal bet, but a slight difference of opinion on whether another pandemic or a cyber pandemic, a pandemic of illness or a cyber pandemic, are going to strike first. Which is going to strike first? So it's not a disagreement. It's just, no, I think you're wrong. Let's see. Again, let's see what comes of this. But it possesses the potential to devastate this country, and we should all be keeping our eyes on it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe. And if you are one of those people who privately, secretly sympathizes with Saatlanders, but can't reveal it because of your work, or can't reveal it because of your marriage or your family and you would like to support us, please visit saintlanders.org. Scroll to the bottom of the page and make a donation. You'll see it's very easy. Please help us to do the work that we do. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.